Hey guys, today we're going to be taking a deep dive into Skramz, a gritty offshoot of Screamo bursting with emotion, urgency, and a tight-knit underground culture. You'll learn what makes it different from its roots, why collectors obsess over rare tapes, and how a bunch of kids in basements across the US created something unforgettable. By the end of this, you'll get why Skramz isn't just noise, it's a lifeline for countless fans. So it's the mid-90s and post-hardcore bands like Orchid, Satia, and Page 99 are pushing Screamo into stranger territories. Faster breakdowns, frantic vocals, more melodic chaos, but still rooted in hardcore DIY. That's where Skramz began. The name itself is a playful twist on Screamo. It shows right away that this isn't polished radio rock, it's messy memories and raw energy. Orchid's Dance Tonight Revolution Tomorrow tape is iconic. It has horrible audio quality, heartfelt lyrics torn from journal pages, and vibes that connect instantly with teenage rage and heartbreak. This is Skramz in its purest form. More emotional, more urgent, and more present. Bands like Satia added melody without losing intensity. It was soft-sung verses that crashed into explosive screams. That contrast, the rapid build and collapse, is a Scram staple. These records weren't sold in big stores, instead they spread through basement shows, mail order catalogs, and zines. Every tape had its own story. Collectors traded rumors about a Camp Blood split, Orchid and Page 99 collaborating on one 7-inch vinyl. Only a few hundred copies existed and were handed out at shows in Maryland. Some say the cover was hand-colored by fans. Even people who never heard the music obsess over owning one. That's the kind of mystique that Skramz built. Ephemeral art shared only among friends and that they cherished over years. Move forward to the 2000s and you've got bands like Off Minor evolving that sound. They brought jazzier chords and complex rhythms, but still kept the screaming soul. The community stayed tight and labels like Level Plane and Ebullition became beacons. Their mail order lists were eagerly circulated signs with handwritten notes and friend suggestions next to obscure bands. Skipping ahead, what is Skramz now? It's alive and it's hybrid. Bands like Touche Amore and La Dispute have taken the emotional intensity into post-hardcore territory, playing major tours, signing with bigger labels like Epitaph. But the old school kids in basements are still shredding. Websites like Mountain Gnosis Records pressed vinyl releases for bands like Rat Boys and Accord. And yes, tapes still matter. Wax cylinders gone, but cassettes are still printed in batches of 100 to 200 to preserve that DIY energy. Regional scenes in the US vary. Washington, D.C. had Rites of Spring inspiring the emo/screamo roots. Philly's basement shows birthed full uncertainty, and Flowers taped to pens. The Midwest, Chicago, and Minneapolis developed darker, slower variants with bands like Directions and Inuit. And in California, the Bay Area chimed in with bands like A Lot Like Birds mixing math rock into Skramz. The Skramz community thrives online too. Reddit's r/Skramz and Bandcamp fan tags help new listeners discover demos recorded in bedrooms. And the fans aren't passive. They start labels, book tours, and print zines. One zine called Echoes in the Cellar shared stories like how a touring band's van broke down in Nebraska and local Skramz fans offered couches, tools, and pizza without question. Why does Skramz feel so real? Because the lyrics are raw. Take Orchid's Grey Get Quarter-Life Crisis rants flung over plummeting drums, or Satia's Andrea, mournful spoken-word lines against reverb guitars. That vulnerability resonates. Scram songs are like waking dreams, frantic and disorienting but truthful. Stats, however, are hard to find. Instead, the measure of success is show attendance and tape trades. At a typical basement show in Philly, 50 to 100 people cram in. Most attendees care deeply about staying in touch, not commercial success. A 2023 survey among Skramz fans found that 85% prefer digital as backup, but still buy limited cassettes or vinyl for the underground aesthetic. In US cities, you can spot Scram shows easily. A lot still passes through friend groups or social media DMs. That exclusivity means fans value the sense of belonging. Skramz isn't going mainstream and it doesn't want to. But here's the twist: sound quality. Songwriting, fine. Emotion, through the roof. But how do you get the sound of Skramz without sounding like a muddy mess? Recording in a basement can kill clarity. Too much reverb and weak low ends. The challenge was to capture raw intensity while keeping the instruments distinct. Others got savvy with software. DIY producers use digital channels like Logic or Reaper and emulate tape saturation. They also emulate spring reverbs and limiters. The goal was to keep it human. Slightest pitch and wobbles, rough edges, and raw vocal take. Imperfections are a part of the whole package. It's that flawed honesty fans crave. Exploration and development consisted of hyper DIY tape aesthetics. Bands swapped full drum kits for electronic triggers recorded on a cassette. Vocals were done in the bathrooms for natural reverb. Guitars were mic'd with a beat-up dynamic mic pointed at an 18-watt tube amp. Tape hiss and room echo made it raw. These demos were traded on cassette and sold for $4 at shows, then trashed after the tour. This made any surviving copies rare gems. The second method was hybrid DIY and digital. Bands like Birds and Row record drums in studios for clarity, then guitars and vocals in bedrooms. They mix on laptops and use plugins to simulate tape compression. It's a way to keep the raw tone but still pressure test the mix with clean signals. The final product sounds immediate, yet individual layers aren't lost in the mud. Take Law Disputes somewhere in the bottom of the River EP. Clean enough to let narrative lyrics stand out, yet distorted, explosive breakdowns still land like punches. That balance showed what Skramz could be going forward. Another development in the scene was community-run festival weekends. Events like Pine Tree bring together vintage Skramz bands from the 90s with brand new acts. Panels on mixing techniques, zine-making booths, and nightly shows in barns. These weekends are DIY at heart. Fans record panel audio, zip it into a tape release sold at the next year's event. Everyone knows the person next to them. Compare that to corporate festivals. No wristbands, no fences, just chords, passion, and sheds. Skram's voice also got political. Lyrics often tackle mental health, alienation, and identity. A 2022 Portland band, Russ Light, wrote about survivors of domestic violence. Their EP proceeds went to a women's shelter. That emotional grit connects the broader social issues in a mainstream way rock often avoids. It's messy and imperfect, but it matters. Here's where everything aligns. Early 2024, a surprise split release dropped. The resurrection of Orchid's vocalist Jason Green and Satia guitarist Adam Marino under a new name, Blood of the Orchard. They released a cassette on Mountain Gnosis. It opens with a 7-minute track that sounds like Skramz reincarnated. Soft-spoken verses, layered guitars, and eruptive climaxes. It sold out within 48 hours. But the kicker? When unpackaging the cassette, fans discovered handwritten lyric sheets. They were tucked inside with doodles, coffee stains, and apology notes. The notes read, "Sorry for the reverb being too loud. This was recorded after midnight with a headache." That tiny flaw made it feel real. It reconnected fans with the artifacts of humanity. Within a month, that cassette went for $200 on Discogs. But more interesting is what came next. Basement tape swap nights popped up again. Fans would bring copies, listen in community rooms, and trade their thoughts. In April 2025, Pine Tree Festival invited Blood of the Orchard to headline. The show sold out in 3 days. Fans camped by the barn 48 hours early. Someone auctioned a copy of the signed lyrics. The proceeds went to suicide prevention. It was raw, emotional, and full circle, true to Skram's founding ethos, community. That moment proved that Skram still lives. It showed that messy basement noise can still heal. Skram started as Basement Fury, short, explosive, emotional recordings passed around slides of photocopied signs. It grew into an underground culture of DIY records, community-run labels, and shared vulnerability. Today it's not about perfection, but honesty. Whether you're spat across a bathroom reverb or layered in a bedroom studio, Skramz demands that you feel something. The revived splits and cassette releases remind us, these aren't just songs, they're messages passed between strangers who become friends. They talk about shame, fear, and courage, which are things we all carry. In the US, Skramz continues to thrive. Bands balancing noise and melody, communities booking gigs and cabins, and audiences still fighting for catharsis. It proves that emotional honesty will never go out of style. Thank you guys for listening to me yap about Skramz, but that's all I have to say about this right now, and if I missed any major things, or any little things even you want to tell me about in the comments, just let me know. Bye.